Angela Levin, Queen
Yes.
Camilla's biographer, how has she gone from being the most hated woman in the UK, and I'm not exaggerating saying that, to your best royal of 2024?
One of the most heartbreaking moments in royal history, the death of Princess Diana, left the world in shock. But what if I told you that before Prince William and Prince Harry even knew, King Charles made a call to Camilla? Yes, the woman who was once the most hated in Britain. Why did he do it? What was going on behind palace doors?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think one of these things is that when they first met in their early 20s, they just clicked. You know, sometimes you can have that with someone. You just click. And um, Charles just said she was the only person who really seemed to listen to him. They laughed about the same things, very good sense of humor, the same sense of humor. They liked walking in the country. They liked horses, they liked dogs. You know, they had an awful lot in common. And the only reason they couldn't go further was that she was not a virgin. And at that time, the heir to the throne could only marry somebody who was a virgin. And Diana was tested for this. I mean, can you imagine? Nobody could even believe that now. And she'd had experience and she was older. And so it just didn't work as they were forced not to do that. And Charles was looking for a marriage and he just had to get on with it. But they didn't speak to each other for several years. Once he'd got engaged, she didn't want to interfere. There's lots of people saying that she was on the phone all the time, and she was not. But what happened, how they really got back, was when Diana had parted from Charles, and he'd got more and more stressed, and he felt that he'd not given her what she needed, and he felt terrible. And then two of his friends were so worried about his depression that they rang her up without telling him, and they said, for goodness sake.
Royal biographer Angela Levin has uncovered the truth, and today I'm diving deep into this controversial decision that changed everything. It was the night of August 31st, 1997. Princess Diana was involved in a fatal car crash in Paris. The news sent shockwaves across the world, but while the world mourned behind closed doors, King Charles had an unimaginable task, telling his young sons, William and Harry, that their mother was gone.
Please help him because he's in a terrible state. He really needs you, and we're very, very worried about him. This is that time when Diana had already had one, if not two, affairs. So it wasn't that she was just fed up with him. And he did speak to her, and then they got together again. And despite the Queen thought it was just appalling because you can't have a woman like that for a future queen. And she didn't go anywhere near where Camilla was for a long time. And they just carried on like a loving couple, really. And eventually, the Queen and Prince Philip, who also didn't want to know anything about it, felt that he wasn't going to give in. Now, the interesting thing was that Prince Charles then had always wanted to please his parents, that he really wanted to. And he felt he wasn't doing enough because, you know, he liked flowers, he liked music, he liked reading, whereas Andrew was much more macho. You know, he liked to fight and to play all sorts of football games. So he felt that he wasn't up to scratch. So it was very difficult for him, but he decided he would not give her up, and he'd always tried to please them. But this time, bang, he was going to stay with Camilla no matter what, which is an incredibly big decision, really. And to go against his much loved parents, very, very difficult.
But before he could do that, he called Camilla. This revelation has left many asking why. Why would Charles in his moment of grief, turned to Camilla first instead of his own children? Angela Levin explains that Charles was completely shattered. Despite the turbulent marriage, Diana was still the mother of his children, and he felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility.
So the Queen accepted it, and gradually they could see that actually she was going to be a brilliant asset to the royals because she understood him. He was now very relaxed, he was happy, and he was much better at doing things. That she was now doing work. She didn't have a career, she wasn't interested in that really. She started doing things for osteoporosis, and the more, she said, the more she started doing it, the more she felt she wanted to do things and that she could help. Now she was in the more senior man, she could really do things to help, and she was doing this because her mother and her grandmother died from osteoporosis. That's crumbling of bones. And then she started taking more and more things. And that's how they felt, my goodness, you know, she's doing incredibly well. And she was devoted to the royal family. She's devoted to the country. And so the Queen got so pleased with her. She put away the Queen. What she did was she didn't talk about horses and dogs and anything like that. You know, she wouldn't go that far because she might have liked her. But eventually she started doing that. And there was a wonderful time when I was writing her biography, and I had a phone call saying, would I mind going to Buckingham Palace that afternoon? There's something I might be interested in. I said, what is it? No, we're not telling you. We're not telling you. It's a secret, but you'll be really pleased. It's a secret. So I rushed there, not knowing anything about it. Camilla came up, said, hello, how are you? Nothing. I said, I'm here. I don't know quite why. She said, oh, we're not telling you. It's a secret. And then suddenly out came the Queen. And Kurt said we had a little chat. And they said she'd hidden from the Chinese leader because she was bored with him. So she hid behind some trees.
He knew that breaking this news to William and Harry would be the hardest thing he'd ever done. And that's when he picked up the phone and called Camilla. Not out of romance, but out of sheer desperation. He needed someone to talk to, someone who knew him well enough to guide him through the moment.
And she wanted to come because that amazing man was going to show how to train a horse who'd never been ridden in half an hour to get someone to ride him. So they sat down, I sat down near them. They talked non-stop about it, non-stop. And I realized that this was done for me incredibly nicely so that I would realize that the Queen and Camilla were now getting on terrifically. They loved this show and they talked non-stop with each other. So I was very grateful for that, actually. And then they knew about the wedding, and the Queen then sort of melted and they were very close. Getting on very well. And Princess Anne, who also wanted nothing to do with her, thought that she was a great asset. And she said after Charles became king that she's amazing because she hasn't come into this world to understand how the whole royal family works. And she's done brilliantly. You know, she's marvelous with him, marvelous with all the things that she's doing. And so she's done it. And she said as well, that she's not going to try and be different. She's going to be who she is, and she hopes that the people who like her will like her, but she can't help it if people don't. This is who she is. So she's quite strong in that. She wasn't going to be phony. And that's how it all came about. That's why she's got wrinkles. She's not trying to pretend that she's decades younger. She's who she is. And she obviously is now admired enormously.
Angela, can I just take you back to 1997, though?
And that person was Camilla. Many blamed her for Charles and Diana's failed marriage, but when Charles called her that night, she focused on helping him stay strong for his sons. Angela Levin reveals that Camilla told him, "You need to be there for your boys." She reminded him that his priority was to comfort William and Harry, not to worry about public scrutiny.
And ask how Camilla was impacted by the death of Princess Diana, because that was the period where she really did become hated, reviled, and presumably her dreams of being with Charles at that point felt crushed.
Yes, it was a very hard time. I mean, she was kind to Diana, and she thought that it was very, very sad. But Prince Charles had, once he'd heard, and before he went into the children's bedroom to tell them they were up in Scotland, he rushed out into the green grass around them and phoned Camilla and said, what am I going to do? This is just terrible. And she helped him get over that. She wasn't interested in saying, oh, goody, we can start going together again. She just tried to help him in his sorrow, because he did love her at one level. The marriage didn't work, but he did love her at one level. And she helped him that, be with the children. This is what you've got to do. Don't worry about me. And she did it that way. So it wasn't her actually thinking. I mean, it was a year before they really got together, after Diana's death. She didn't want to behave in the wrong way.
So she was actually incredibly selfless.
Many assumed Charles would have turned to his mother, Queen Elizabeth, or his father, Prince Philip, for guidance. But he didn't. Angela Levin suggests that Charles never felt emotionally close to his parents in the way that he did with Camilla.
Very selfless, very.
Gosh, that must have been such a shocking phone call, though, Angela, to receive in the middle of the night, because obviously the whole world changed, but her whole world changed at that moment.
Yes, she didn't know how it would turn out. I don't think that she was planning. She wasn't.
And she had tried to befriend. I mean, look, there they are. That was one of their early meetings. She had tried to befriend Diana, but it didn't go well. Let's be honest, Angela.
No, Diana felt that she was trying to ingratiate herself with her, and she didn't like that. And she was also jealous about her, because she knew that Charles got on with her very well. I mean, it was a very difficult situation. And I think it's an older mother trying to tell a young, beautiful girl how to be a bit, but very nicely. And I think, Diana didn't want to know, but that's fair enough. I don't think that she ever thought that she would get back with him at that time.
No. Fascinating stuff.
Interesting story, isn't it? Really?
Well. Oh my goodness. I mean, if you were writing a novel, you would not believe it. And of course,
exactly.
It was happily ever after, but very sad because Diana was not around to see that. Lots of people, Angela, think actually Diana would have been friends with Camilla today. Do you agree with that?
I don't know. I don't know how people should be friends. But I do know that I feel that the people who made the wrong decision that Diana should marry Charles were the two grandmothers, the great-grandmother of the Queen's mother and also Diana's grandmother.
This moment tells us a lot about the emotional dynamics within the royal family. Charles, the future king, was left to handle his grief alone, except for Camilla. So now that we know the full story, what do you think? Was Charles wrong to call Camilla first? Or was he just a grieving father, looking for comfort in the only person who truly understood him? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one of them. And if you love royal deep dives like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.